You're watching a Highwire Media podcast. The Dallas Cowboys notched a much-needed and hard-fought win on Thursday night against their division rival New York Giants. The victory came at a cost, as both Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence went down with injuries in the win. Luckily for the Cowboys, there's a bit of a mini bye week between their Thursday win and their Week 5 matchup on Sunday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And not only will Dallas need to be doing some work on figuring out how to replace their two best guys on their defensive front, but there could be other players in danger of losing their jobs. Having some extended time like this to look at the tape and make personnel changes could help give the Cowboys a much needed spark as the season goes along. But which players could potentially be in danger of being benched or replaced after what we saw in the first 4 games? Well, starting off, we got number 1, Tyler Guyton. There's definitely value to letting rookies go out there and take their lumps, but Cowboys' first round tackle, Tyler, is probably coming off of his worst game yet as a professional. And to add insult on top of it, he made the impulsive decision to make a comment about the NFL needing new officials as he was heading to the locker room. Tyler was bad enough against the Giants on Thursday night that he was getting hit with the Drewski memes on Twitter, and obviously the Cowboys need to figure out where the balance is for him in terms of having patience through rough patches, or maybe giving him some time on the sidelines to sort of reset and get another shot at it later in the season. It's not surprising that he's going through rookie growing pains, but he may need some coaching on his technique before he can go out there and truly fail forward in real game action. Then at number 2, Brandon Cooks. At this point, the Dallas Cowboys are just spinning their wheels with Brandon Cooks out there as a top 3 option in the passing game. The idea behind acquiring Cooks last season had plenty of merit, and Cooks had been plenty productive throughout his career to justify bringing him in. The return on investment so far this season just hasn't been there. The Cowboys just need to promote Jalen Tolbert to the number 2 role and not look back at this rate. Cooks has caught just 9 passes so far this season, including 5 in the last 3 games combined. He has a quarterback rating when targeted this season of just over 79, which would be the worst of his NFL career to this point if it holds. His inability to create separation on the simplest of routes has made life difficult for Prescott when he hasn't looked in the direction of CeeDee Lamb. Tolbert has been much better so far this season with 160 yards on 13 receptions. He should not be having his snaps eaten into by Brandon Cooks anymore. Number 3, Donovan Wilson. The most touchdowns allowed by Donovan Wilson in coverage throughout the course of his NFL career has been only 2. That has happened on a few different occasions, but he's never been credited with allowing more than 2 in a season. He's already given up 2 touchdowns this year. Wilson has become enough of a liability that pretty much every Cowboys fan was begging for the team to make a change against the Giants, and it's something that Mike McCarthy and Mike Zimmer are going to have to seriously consider going forward. And not only with Wilson, but perhaps his running mate Malik Hooker. Hooker, who nearly gave up a Minneapolis Miracle-style touchdown near the end of Thursday's game. The Cowboys might legitimately just have better players buried on the depth chart at safety right now. With what we've seen from Wilson so far, it's time to find out. And number 4, Damone Clark. We are already well on our way to this one happening, aren't we? DeMarvion Overshown inexplicably had his snap count go down after week 1, but that changed in week 4 for Overshown as he racked up 8 tackles and a pass broken up. Overshown was Dallas's clear standout on defense Thursday night along with Mozzie Smith. Clark, on the other hand, only played a handful of snaps and is down to just 32% of the snaps played so far this season. He started all 17 games for the Cowboys last season, but with Overshown starting to come on in the presence of Eric Kendricks and rookie Maurice, the writing is on the wall for Clark. He's not likely to have many snaps going forward at all, barring injury. And now, we're going to address 4 more Cowboys, but this time, who are barely clinging on to a roster spot after that Week 4 victory. It's never been more apparent that the NFL is a week-to-week league. The Dallas Cowboys find themselves 2-2. And looking up at Dan Quinn's Washington Commanders in the NFC East standings. With DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons shelved with foot and ankle injuries, respectively the next month, could be tough sledding for the reigning division champs. It's no secret that Mike McCarthy needs to get his act together as a play caller, but the players themselves also need to be held accountable. It is possible that fans may have overrated this roster coming into the season. With little margin for error in a wonky NFC East and a competitive NFC, the Cowboys might have to make some tough personnel decisions in the near future. These players in particular are on the chopping block amid a disappointing start to the season. Number 4, Linval Joseph. The Cowboys are suffering the consequences of waiting until September to bolster the defensive tackle position. Jordan Phillips is already on IR with a phantom wrist injury. His absence has created more snaps for Joseph, and the 35-year-old has looked his age. Joseph is currently Dallas's lowest graded player with a 29.4 grade per PFF. He has 1 tackle and 0 defensive stops on 72 snaps. Joseph has been especially inept against the run. He's getting moved off the ball with ease, which has forced linebackers to plug 2 gaps while shedding blocks. The Cowboys don't have any better options behind Mozzie Smith, who had a career game Thursday against the Giants. Assuming the front office is searching for an upgrade, Joseph's days in Dallas could be numbered. And then number 3, Brevin Span forward. It wasn't a surprise that the Cowboys kept 4 tight ends on their 53-man roster. With fan darling John Stevens Jr. missing the first few games with a hamstring injury, Span Ford has played a healthy 55 snaps in the first 4 weeks. Span Ford is a distant third in the pecking order behind Jake Ferguson, 133 snaps in 3 games, and Luke Shoemaker, 91 snaps in 4 games. But that's more playing time than most undrafted rookies. Unfortunately, the former Golden Gopher has not made the most of his opportunities. After committing 2 penalties against the Ravens in Week 3, Span Ford was penalized again in Thursday. He has 3 penalties in the last 6 quarters, still hasn't caught a pass, and has disappointed as a blocker, which is the reason Dallas kept him on the roster. Span Ford currently owns a 47.4 pass blocking grade and a 46.8 run blocking grade. Given his extremely limited ceiling as a receiver, there's no sense of keeping him on the active roster if he isn't going to offer anything as a blocker. And with that, we go into number 2, Andrew Booth. With no Daron Bland and no Kalen Carson, Booth got the start at cornerback opposite Trayvon Diggs against the Giants. A healthy scratch for the first 3 weeks, Booth had a great opportunity to cement a spot in the rotation, and he failed with flying colors. Booth got left in the dust by Malik Neighbors early in the game. It would have gone for a touchdown had Daniel Jones threw a better ball. While he made some nice open field tackles, both in coverage and as a run defender, he was completely overmatched in coverage. Booth allowed 4 catches on 4 targets for 85 yards, including 26 yards after the catch. Jones had a 118.8 passer rating when targeting the former second rounder, and Mike Zimmer quickly benched him for Amani, who actually had the game-clinching interception. The Cowboys don't have the luxury to cut Booth, but he could be off the roster entirely by the time they're healthy at cornerback. Number 1, Deuce Vaughn. Mike McCarthy deserves credit for trying to incorporate Vaughn into the offense. However, it hasn't led to any success, and McCarthy has kept going back to the well. In 4 games, Vaughn has 7 carries for 20 yards, and a 56.0 PFF rushing grade. He's caught both of his targets for 14 yards. Every touch that Vaughn receives should go to Rico or fullback Hunter Luepke, who has come on strong in the last 2 weeks. Vaughn has the skill set to be an effective gadget player, but not in McCarthy's offense, which is as bland as any in the NFL right now. With Rico emerging as the number 1 and Luepke establishing himself as a reliable weapon for Prescott, there's little to no room for Vaughn to make an impact. He didn't log a single touch against the Giants and has played a combined 9 snaps the last 2 games. Feels like a matter of time until Dalvin Cook takes Vaughn's spot on the active roster and Vaughn gets demoted to the practice squad. And while we addressed pretty much 8 Cowboy players that were disasters in the game against the Giants, we're now going to take a look at 4 stars who saved Dallas from choking against the Giants. After 2 consecutive weeks of getting embarrassed at home, the Dallas Cowboys needed to get back on track against the New York Giants on Thursday. Despite plenty of injuries and penalties, the Cowboys won their 7th straight game over the Giants, while Prescott won his 13th in a row against them. Though impressive streaks, a narrow 20-15 win was not what most expected. Cowboys defense only allowed 26 total rushing yards, which marked a huge improvement relative to the last 2 games. Despite that, the Giants were still in position to win the game after Brandon Aubrey missed his first field goal of the season. Fortunately, a late interception sealed the win. This may have been a victory, but it was almost given away by Dallas during some moments on Thursday night. However, these 4 players made sure the team walked out in New Jersey with a win. Number 4, Mazi Smith. Mazi Smith answered the challenge of many fans on Thursday night. He spearheaded a defensive line that only allowed 1.1 yards per carry the whole game. Giants starting running back Devin Singletary only had 24 yards on the ground. The rest of the defense played much better as a unit, but Smith's run stuffing and ability to move the line of scrimmage stood out. Smith had 3 total tackles. One that stood out was a tackle for a loss he had on Singletary. He clearly beat his man to the point of attack and got in the backfield to blow up the play right away. That is what Dallas has been looking for ever since they drafted him. The 2023 first-round pick also had a tackle on backup running back Tyron Tracy, where he practically body slammed him at the line of scrimmage. The rest of the line rallied around Smith. With the injuries that happened to Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Trayvon Diggs, the defense still made stops and did not let the Giants' offense score 1 touchdown. Hopefully, this is the beginning of Smith turning his career around. The Cowboys want him to be that run-stuffing nose tackle in the middle. He looked the part on Thursday night and was a catalyst in the win. Number 3, Eric Kendricks. Eric Kendricks finally looks like the replacement for Leighton Vander Esch Dallas is hoping he will be. He led the team in tackles Thursday night with 13, 6 of them being solo. If fans looked too quickly, they might have thought Sean Lee was back out there. Kendricks was the most significant free agent the Cowboys signed during the offseason. They needed huge help at middle linebacker after Vander Esch retired. Through the first 3 games, Kendricks had looked like a shell of the player he was in his prime. He was all over the field on Thursday night. The former Viking and Charger might not have had any glamorous plays, but he made a difference for the Cowboys' defense. Players did not look out of position, and everyone seemed to be flying to the ball. That is a testament to Kendricks, who wears the green dot as the field general. Kendricks can get back to being what he was in Los Angeles last year. This defense will look better with each passing week. Of course, number 2, Dak Prescott. Prescott in this offense found some momentum at the end of the Ravens game last week, and it carried over in the first half. Prescott never put the ball in harm's way and finished with over 220 yards. His stats might have been boosted by CeeDee Lamb's 55-yard score, but he moved the offense well enough to secure the win. After punting on their first possession, Dallas scored on every drive the rest of the first half. 12-play drive that ended in a Rico Dowdle screen pass touchdown was the type of drive this team needed to jump on the Giants early. In the last 2 games, the Cowboys started slow and were hardly able to get any offense going until it was too late. The touchdown pass to Lamb was what arguably broke the game open. Yes, a 14-6 lead is not insurmountable, but against a weaker team like the Giants, a big play like that can shatter their confidence. New York was having to play catch-up for the rest of the game, and therefore had to resort to going to the air more so than the ground. It wasn't a gaudy Dak game, but he overcame shoddy play calling and picked apart the Giants' defense, specifically with quick passes. He completed 13 of 14 passes under 2.5 seconds for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. When the defense can make stops and give Prescott more time with the ball, the offense can win for this team. And that played out on Thursday night. And finally, number 1, CeeDee Lamb. There was one Cowboys player who dealt with scrutiny the most of this week. It was Lamb. And that was fully deserved after cameras caught Lamb arguing on the sidelines and he had a critical fumble early in the Baltimore game. Lamb responded in a big way Thursday night. After making his case for being more involved in the offense, Lamb got his wish. He was targeted 8 times and caught 7 of those passes without 1 drop. He also had a 10-yard carry on the first drive, which was one of the Cowboys' longest run plays of the season. The Giants were down 2 of their corners, so the expectation was Dak would feed Lamb most of the night. The play that changed the game was early in the second quarter when Prescott looked deep for Lamb, who beat Deonte Banks and was then able to make a move to get out of the way of safety Tyler Nubin. After that, it was a clear run to the end zone. Lamb also got flagged for taunting the Giants by throwing the ball back towards them, but the touchdown stood. After the week Lamb had in dealing with the media, who could blame him for celebrating like that? The superstar receiver has his money, and those big plays are what this offense needs to be one of the best. Lamb might have gone quiet in the second half, which might have been the biggest reason the offense went stagnant, but the plays he made early helped Dallas get the upper hand to finish this game in the end. He deserves a lot of credit for answering those questions this week. It is felt inevitable that the marriage between the Las Vegas Raiders and Davante Adams would end in divorce. Amid long-standing frustration with the team's quarterback play and a falling out with a head coach Antonio Pierce, Adams informed Las Vegas that he wants to be traded. It was reported on Wednesday that the Dallas Cowboys are among the teams that have checked in on Adams' situation. Always waiting for the other shoe to drop, Cowboy fans were quickly hit with the expected news that Dallas is not interested in trading for Adams. The Cowboys pulled out the familiar excuses. Not only are they comfortable with their current receivers, but they don't have the money to afford Adams and consider their 2025 draft capital more important than previous years. That is a real shame because the Raiders' reported asking price for Adams is right in Dallas's wheelhouse. The Raiders are hoping to receive a second-round pick and additional compensation for Adams, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. That price could come down given Adams' age, injury, and contract. The three-time All-Pro turns 32 in December and is dealing with a hamstring injury that could keep him out of Week 5 and is owed $13 million for the rest of the season. A second-round pick might seem like a steep price for an aging receiver, especially for a team whose roster-building philosophy hinges highly on the draft. However, the Cowboys have been notoriously poor at drafting in the second round. It doesn't make any sense given their hit rate in other rounds, but for whatever reason, round 2 has been a cesspool of swings and misses during the Jerry Jones era. Some of Dallas's most recent second-round picks include tight end Luke Shoemaker, defensive end Sam Williams, cornerback Kelvin Joseph, Trayvon Diggs, and Tristan Hill. Diggs is the only player that Dallas hit on. Other notable poor picks include Jalen Smith and Randy Gregory, both of whom never lived up to their second-round billing. Meanwhile, the third round has been friendly to the Cowboys. DeMarvion Overshawn, Osa Udoizi, Michael Gallup, Jordan Lewis, DeMarco Murray, Connor McGovern, and Malik Collins were all drafted in round 3 and developed into high-end starters. The Cowboys seemingly found a gem in 2024 second-rounder Marshawn Neiland. But if there was any draft pick that the front office should feel comfortable parting with, be a second rounder. Trading for Adams would be a no-brainer for most teams in Dallas's position. With Brandon Cooks out for Week 5 and potentially longer, the need for a receiver has never been more apparent. A day 2 pick would be enough to get Adams through the door, but the Joneses continue to cry poverty as if they don't run the most valuable sports franchise in the world. And now on to our next topic. Cowboys' Week 5 matchup against the Steelers just got easier after some notable injury news. This injury could have major implications on Sunday night. The Dallas Cowboys front office rightfully was criticized for their passive offseason, but any team would be hard-pressed to overcome their current injury list. They're currently down 2 All-Pros in pass rusher Micah Parsons and Daron Bland, Pro Bowl defensive end in DeMarcus Lawrence, and 6-time 1,000-yard receiver Brandon Cooks. This puts more pressure on Dak Prescott to carry the team on his shoulders, but that will be easier said than done Sunday night against a stout Pittsburgh Steelers defense. This primetime matchup features 2 of the most banged-up teams in the league. The Steelers have been ransacked by injuries, particularly to their offensive line, which has lost 3 starters to season-ending injuries. Starting guard James Daniels will go on IR after he tore his Achilles in Week 4. It will be interesting to see how the Cowboys' depleted defensive line performs against a decimated Steelers offensive line. But the game could be decided based on whether Dallas's offensive line can protect Prescott against former Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt. Watt will be a handful, that much is certain, but the superstar pass rusher will be without his star running mate this week. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin revealed that edge rusher Alex Highsmith will miss his second straight game with a groin injury. While Watt is the most valuable player on Pittsburgh's defense, Highsmith's presence was surely missed in the team's Week 4 loss to the Colts. After allowing combined 26 points in their first 3 games, the Steelers gave up 27 points to an Indianapolis team that lost starting quarterback Anthony Richardson early in the game. Even star running back Jonathan Taylor left the game with an ankle injury, and the Colts still moved the ball at will. Third-round pick in the 2020 draft, Highsmith is one of the best complementary pass rushers in the NFL. He broke out in 2022 with 14.5 sacks and followed that with 7 sacks last season to go with 32 defensive stops and an 86.2 pass rush grade per PFF. He also had a higher pass rush win rate than Watt. Without Highsmith, the Steelers returned to second year pro Nick Herbig, who had a dreadful first career start against the Colts. The 2023 fourth-round pick is a talented pass rusher, but he really struggles to defend the run. Even he is banged up. He suffered an ankle injury in Week 4 and was a DNP on Wednesday. While Watt is still capable of wrecking a game, Pittsburgh's other injuries will allow the Cowboys to throw multiple bodies at Watt, whether it be lining up an extra tight end on the right side to help Terrence Steele, or chipping him with tight ends and running backs. Dallas is in a nice position to make Watt's life as difficult as possible. The reigning sack champ will still get his and the Cowboys have their own injuries to overcome. But Prescott and the offense should, emphasis on should, be able to score enough points to pull out a win on Sunday night. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. How do you think the Cowboys will do against the Steelers on Sunday night? Of course, if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thebigd. As always, your support helps the channel grow, upgrade our equipment, bring in new hosts, be able to pay them, and hopefully one day take this show on the road. We'd love to be able to live stream episodes from Cowboys country at AT&T Stadium or at away games across the country. And your support can help make that happen. Whether it's $1, $5, $20, $50, or $100, anything you give is appreciated and goes right back into the channel. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.